Welcome students. In the previous class, we were discussing about the various causes of French Revolution. Today, we are going to discuss about the most important cause, that is called immediate cause. What is that immediate cause? Students, in the previous class, we were discussing how King Louis XVI was facing problem regarding his expenditure. Day by day, the expenditure was growing because of, the various reason like maintenance of the army, running government offices, and various other causes. As a result of this, Louis XVI was bound to increase the taxes, but there was a problem here. What was the problem? Though Louis XVI has the power to govern the kingdom, still he didn't have the power to impose taxes according to his own will. In the old regime, the king, the monarch didn't have the power to increase the taxes or impose the taxes also. Now the question arises, who has the power? If the king himself doesn't have the power to increase the tax or impose the new taxes also, then who has the power to impose the taxes? There is a system here. In the old regime, monarch didn't have the power. In order to impose new taxes, he has to call the meeting of the State General. Now, what is State General? State General was a political body to which three states sent their representative. That you understand? The State General was a political body to which three State General sent their representatives. And this State General was having the power to impose new taxes on the people. But the monarch has the power to call the meeting of the body. He didn't have the power to impose new tax, but monarch had the power to call the meeting of the State General. Accordingly, last time the meeting of the State General was held in 1614, and accordingly King Louis XVI called the meeting of the State General on 5th May 1789. What was the reason? The reason was to pass the proposal for new tax. Because the State General, the body of the State General was the supreme political body to pass the proposal to impose new taxes on the people. As a result of this, the meeting was called by Louis XVI. That was the day of 5th May 1789. For this purpose, a resplendent hall in Versailles was prepared to house the delegates. Because I have told you, the representatives from three states will come to the meeting of the State General. For this purpose, a resplendent hall in Versailles. Now look at the picture. You see, this is the resplendent hall in Versailles, which was made by Louis XVI for the purpose of meeting of the State General. Here, to the meeting of the State General, the first state and second state sent 300 members each. And here, there was a special system of sitting arrangement. What was the special system of sitting arrangement? 300 members of each category, that is for first state and second state, they will sit in a row which will face each other on two sides. But if the first state and second state members, they will sit in a row facing each other on two sides, what about the members of the third state? What was the sitting arrangement for the member of the third state? You see, the member of the third state, that is 600 members. 600 members were represented to State General from third state category. And what was the sitting arrangement? They will not sit in a row. Rather, they will stand at the back of the member of first state and second state. You see, previous classes, we have discussed about the social disparities in the society, French society, where the member of the third state people are always subjected to humiliation. And you see, it is there here also. You can see the picture, image, where the 300 members of each category, that is first state and second state, they were sitting in a row facing each other, whereas the member of the third state, they are standing at the back. You see, the social disparities which was existed in the French society, it is reflected here in the meeting of the State General. Now, but the member of the third state was from the rich, prosperous and educated categories, whereas peasants, artisans, women were not allowed to the meeting of the State General. Now, the sitting arrangement was over. Now, the voting right. What was the system of voting in the meeting of the State General? Prior to this, the voting system in the State General was that conducted on the principle of one state, one vote. One state, one vote. Here also there is the supremacy of first state and second state. Because if one state can give one vote, then automatically it will represent the supremacy of the first state and second state here also. But this time it was opposed by the third state. They demanded that each member should have one vote. Instead of one state, one vote, now the third state people, they demanded that instead of the previous principle of one state, one vote, now it should be on the basis of one member, one vote. That is what, based on the democratic principles, democratic principle propounded by the theory of Rousseau, best which is written in the book called The Social Contract. That is democratic principle. One state, one vote, it is not the democratic principles. Because members are there, represented to the State General from both first state, second state and third state also. That is why one member should have one vote. But the demand of the third state, that is the proposal made by the member of the third state, also rejected by the king. When the proposal of third state was rejected by the king, all the members, those who were sitting in the meeting of the State General, they walked out of the assembly because their proposal was not accepted by the king. As a result of this, all the members, those who were there in the meeting of the State General from the third state, they walked out of the meeting. And what did they do? All the members, those who were there in the meeting of the State General, they walked out of the meeting and assembled in the hall of an indoor tennis court ground at Versailles. That was an indoor tennis court hall. All the members assembled there. And there they declared themselves as the National Assembly. The member, those who were assembled in the indoor hall of tennis court, they declared themselves as National Assembly. And there they took the oath that not to disperse from that particular place until they had drafted a constitution for France. They took oath, assembled there in the indoor hall of tennis court at Versailles, and took oath. What was the oath? Not to disperse from that place until they drafted a constitution for France. Just see the picture. How the members are assembled there in the indoor hall of tennis, indoor hall of tennis court, and there they raised the voice concern against the king. All the members assembled there, and it was more interesting that movement that led to a movement, because they took oath until and unless they drafted a constitution for France, they were not going out of that place. And this movement was led by Mirabeau and Agassiz. Now the question is that who is Mirabeau and who is Agassiz? You see, the member of the third state, they are raising their voice against the first state and second state. That is clergy and nobles. And here, Mirabeau, being a noble by birth, he supported the demand of the common people. Mirabeau, by birth, he is a noble. Generally, he should have a support towards the nobles, but he didn't have any support towards the noble. Rather, he has a great concern for the common people. For that particular reason, he brought out a journal and gave powerful speeches to the crowd assembled at Versailles. And that speeches was against the existing principles of the society, which was already we have discussed earlier. That is what? Social disparity, where the third estate people have always treated as a lower class people. It is a humiliation to the third estate people, and it was objected by Mirabeau in his speeches. Like that, Agassiz by birth originally a priest, that is from clergy group. But though he was originally a priest, still he was also against the first state and second state people. That is how he wrote an influence pamphlet. What is the pamphlet called as? What is the third state? That is the pamphlet, through which he had also objected against the existing principle of the French society. In this way, the National Assembly was busy in drafting the constitution for the people of France. But this is a turning point for the people of France. What is the turning point? While the National Assembly was busy in drafting the constitution for the people of France, the rest of the France was seated with turmoil. What is that turmoil? The turmoil is, during that period of time, it was the month of winter, due to bad weather, harvest decline, due to the less production, price rose, and Baker exploited the conditions by hoarding the supplies. As a result of this, large number of people, angry crowd, they stormed the shops. During this period, Louis XVI ordered his troops to move into Paris. But when the rumor spread that the military personnel, the troops which were heading towards Paris, they are going to kill large number of people. As a result of that, what happened? 7,000 men and women, they gathered in the town hall and marched towards the fortress's prison called Bastille Fort. There was also another reason they went towards that, because when they heard the troops are coming towards them, in order to fight with them, they need arms and ammunition. They thought that there would have been more arms and ammunition there in the fort of Bastille. That is why the angry crowd stormed into the Bastille fort, killed the military personnel present there, and set free prisoners, those who are there in that fort. It will be surprised for you, and you will be astonished to know also how many prisoners were there in that fort. How many prisoners? Only 7 prisoners were there in that fort. Anyhow, they stormed into that fort, destroyed the Bastille fort, and it is one of the most important events in the history of Europe, because Bastille fort itself is a symbol of despotic rule, and this is the end of the despotic rule. You see how the people are moving towards Bastille fort, and they destroyed the Bastille fort, the symbol of despotic rule. Now, as a result of this, finally, king got to know the power of the revolting subjects, and he accorded recognition to the National Assembly, and accepted the principle that his power would from now be checked by constitution. It means what? It means Louis XVI surrendered in front of the National Assembly. He accorded recognition that now his power would be checked by constitution. That means this cleared the path for the establishment of a constitutional monarchy. On the night of 4th August 1789, the National Assembly passed a decree means royal order, abolishing the feudal system of obligation and taxes. Obligation, it means what? It means the privileges whichever enjoyed by the first state and second state now came to an end. Whatever the taxes, you just remember, taxes, tithes, tile, many indirect taxes, all those taxes were also abolished. And clergy and nobles, whatever the privileges by birth they were enjoying, everything was taken away. And in this way, the National Assembly completed the draft of the Constitution in 1791. Now, you see, France, from the clause of a despotic rule, now it is transformed, changed into a constitutional monarchy. It means France now become a constitutional monarchy, where the head of the state will be a monarch, but the real power will be enjoyed by the elected body. It means National Assembly will have more power as compared to the monarch. He is the head of the state, but what type of head? Just a nominal head. The real power will be in the hand of the National Assembly. As a result of this, France became a constitutional monarchy. Now, the power which was enjoyed by the monarch itself, it has been separated among the three institutions like legislature, executive, and judiciary. That is the theory of separation of power advocated by Montesquieu. Montesquieu, the theory of separation of power. And accordingly, it was followed there in France. Earlier I have told you, USA was the first country to follow the principle of separation of power. Now, France also followed that path. You see, National Assembly, how it was constituted and how it was taking decisions for the people of France. Now, the power to make law was vested in the hand of the National Assembly. But the question arises here, how the National Assembly was constituted? National Assembly was a body that was indirectly elected by the people. Try to understand, indirectly elected by the people. Here in India, our legislative body, that is the parliament, is directly elected by the people. Whereas they are in National Assembly, they are in France, the National Assembly, that is also a legislative body, was indirectly elected by the people. Now the question is that how they are indirectly elected by the people? Here, first system is that the citizens, first they will elect electors. First, they will elect the electors. And later on, the electors will choose the member of the National Assembly. Try to understand. First, the citizens, they will vote to elect the electors. And later on, the electors, again they will choose the member of the National Assembly. Now the question is that who are the citizens? As in India, we are having a different theory. Universal adult franchise. All the people above the age of 18, they are having the right to vote. Was this system followed in France there at that time? No. The answer is no. All the citizens didn't have the right to vote. You see, this is the system of voting rights, how it was prevailing there in France at that time. Now, who had right to vote? Here in France, there are two types of citizen. One is your active citizen, another is your passive citizen. One is your active citizen, another is your passive citizen, passive. Now, who is active citizen and who is passive citizen? That is also difference. There is also difference here. Try to understand who are called active citizen now. Only men above the age of 25 years of age who paid taxes equal to at least 3 days of a laborer's wage were considered or given the status of active citizen. That to understand. Only men. Men means what? Women were not given the right to vote. Men, what is the age limit? 25 years of age. Men who are having 25 years of age or above, as well as who paid taxes equal to at least 3 days of a laborer's wage. 25 years of age, at the same time they must be paying taxes that is equal to 3 days of a laborer's wage. Then and there only they will be given the right to vote. And they were considered as active citizen. And they were given the right to vote. This was the category and of active citizenship. What about the others? Men. What about the women? Women. And the remaining category of men. Remaining category of men means those who are not paying taxes or below the age of 25 years. 25 years of above and paying taxes, they were having the right to vote. So below 25 years of age And those who are not paying taxes, they didn't have the right to vote. It means they were coming under the passive citizens. So in this way, these two types of citizenship was there in France during that period of time. Okay, if that is for the right people to vote, what about the electors and the member of the National Assembly? What was their qualification? It means to qualify as an elector or then as a member of the National Assembly, a man had to belong to the highest bracket of taxpayer. Then and there only, if they are paying more taxes, highest bracket of taxpayer means they are paying more taxes. Then and there only they were coming under the, or they had the right to, they had the qualification to elect as an elector, as a member of the National Assembly. This was the qualification for the electors and the member of the National Assembly. In this way, the National Assembly was constituted. After that, the Constitution drafted in 1791 began with the Declaration of Rights of Men and Citizens. You know, prior to this, during the time of monarchical form of government that is headed by Louis XVI, there was no rights, no freedom given to the people. That is why when the Constitution of France drafted, it began with the Declaration of Rights of the Men and Citizen. You see, this is the tablet which consists of the Declaration of Rights of Men and Women. Now, what type of rights are there? Rights such as right to life, freedom of speech and opinion, equality before the law. This is the basic human rights a person should have in his life, that has been kept in the category of natural and inalienable rights. They are in France also. The right to life, freedom of speech and opinion, and equality before the law. These were established as natural and inalienable rights. Students, today we have discussed how France got constitutional monarchy and transformed from the absolute monarchy to constitutional monarchy. In this class, we have discussed how the despotic rule of Louis XVI came to an end, how France got constitutional monarchy, how the people got the right to vote. No matter, all the people have not got the right to vote. Still, some categories of people, they got the right to vote and elect their leaders. So, this is the end of the class today. Before ending the class, let us test ourselves how far we have discussed and what part we have covered. Now, I am going to ask some questions regarding the topic, whatever we have discussed today. The first question is, how many members represented to the State General from the third state? The question is, how many members represented to the third state general from the third state? The answer is 600 members were represented to the State General from the third state. 600 members only. Okay. So the second question is, who had the power to call the meeting of the State General? And the answer is monarch. Monarch had the power to call the meeting of the State General. Try to remember, students. Monarch didn't have the power to impose new tax, but he had the power to call the meeting of the State General. Is that clear? So, this is what today we have discussed about the immediate cause of the French Revolution, as well as how France became a constitutional monarchy.